Welcome to today's video. In today's video, we are doing a POV. I recently posted the highlights of this video on my Instagram reels, and a lot of people gave me some really great feedback, and it inspired me to actually make this a full video. I wasn't planning on doing that. I don't think I started shooting today's video though until about 6:57 a.m. because it's so dark outside in the mornings, and it was also extremely cold, and I wanted to wait till it warmed up, so hopefully more people would be on the streets once I started filming. And you'll definitely notice that the streets of Toronto have definitely emptied out this week. Post-holiday season, there's not a lot of people to begin with. You add on certain restrictions and freezing cold temperatures, and you're left with a city where creativity is endless, but there's not a whole lot of people. So yeah, hopefully this gives you some composition ideas for what to do in your city if you think that there are no photos to take. I always try to avoid thinking that there won't be photos to take because it's too cold or there won't be people or something, you know, along those lines that might stop me from taking photos. I just set my bar at there's going to be one photo I'm going to come back with that I think I'm going to be happy with. And if I can come back with that one photo, that's a whole reason to then just to go down and take the photos themselves instead of worrying about how much you're going to get out of your time actually taking photos. I find that that really is what makes these walks enjoyable, is just doing it for the fact that you're able to do it. So with that, I hope you enjoy this video. If you do have any questions or comments, feel free to put them down below or DM me up on Instagram. And yeah, let's hop on into it, and I hope you like this one. And first photo coming up is this guy on his scooter. This was something where I was trying to get a little bit closer to and get a few different options here. Wanted to make sure I could get the details and capture the lights in the background. As you can see, I really desaturated the tones, and that's something that I do mostly in my photos, but in this one in particular, I'm going to say I pulled the blues out and really just made it a little bit darker and more moody. This one obviously shot down the street. I'm not going to call that one anything anything special. Was trying here with the glass to my left, and as you can see, I'm checking the back of the viewfinder to see if I actually got the shot, and I definitely didn't. This photo didn't really work out how I had hoped. Got this one with the lights reflecting on the ground and the person just down the street. Really, it would have been nice if maybe they were wearing something a little brighter, or you know, they were a little bit closer and I had some more shape to them. And then I took that same photo of the person and got them basically walking away and having the light reflections on the ground. The light reflections on the ground were actually there. I always thought it was color banding or something that I don't like, but no, they were actually there and they actually looked like that, which was also really weird. Classic architecture shot for me. I'm always looking for buildings in the city that are a little bit interesting and that I can include in a photo carousel. That was definitely one of them. I thought that was cool. There's probably something there that I could do in the future, especially at the lower level of that building. There's something there. I'm not quite sure if maybe I could do some portraits, or if there was like an interesting person there smoking or hanging out on like a bench or something, I could probably do something. So I'll probably have to come back and see what it is I can create. Then of course, heading over to Union Station, I'm going to say this is where things started to pick up a little bit for me. I was trying to photograph some of the people crossing the street on this one, and they were just a little bit far away than I would have hoped, but it led to a cool shot. I love that all the lights are on in that building behind Union Station. That's a new skyscraper. That thing's been under construction this entire time, and I can honestly say I think it adds a little bit to the skyline, makes it a little bit more dynamic. It's not so empty now behind Union Station, so you actually get some interesting photos. What I was trying to do here though is obviously get that person crossing the street, which the photo did not work out, so we don't need to see that. But as I'm also trying to avoid cars, I'm looking at the road line. I saw that person crossing the street, and I'm trying to line them up on the rule of thirds and actually capture a quick photo of them. So the person didn't get quite where I wanted them to be. I was hoping that they would show up a little bit bigger in my viewfinder. I believe I shot this at 50 or 70 millimeters, and the person would have been perfect if they were a little bit back. I obviously don't want to give up though, and I keep on trying. I'm looking for more compositions in the middle of the road. I saw this Porsche, thought that was a cool comp. I thought I could make one of my split photos, or like one of the ones that I could blend with something like that, especially with how bright the lights were. I thought that was kind of cool and would be a nice effect if I added an Orton effect or something on the back of the car. Could lead to an interesting photo, but I don't know. Again, the colors were not where I wanted them to be. As you can see, the clouds are just really, really thick. And Toronto is notorious for having extremely warm lighting. I don't know if you noticed, but the street lights and just all the lights in general are just extremely warm lights. Whereas I think most urban centers are actually more cool lights. blue tones, that kind of thing, and that leads to a completely different color cast. Whereas for us, it's this weird contrast between orangey warm lights on the roads, and then the sky is going to show up blue most of the time because it's obviously a cooler lighting temperature. That said, in this part, I'm trying to work with the warm lights, and I see on the Fairmont there's the overhang there. This overhang is something where I could do a really interesting street photo if I had the right person, and I've just never been able to line up a character, I'm going to call them, that I want at the right time. But what I was trying to do is get this couple on their way to work or something walking underneath the overhang, and I edited these a couple different ways and landed on these two. Not quite sure which one I prefer the most, so please let me know. That said, I prefer this one. I think this is a cool composition as well. In the winter, it's always tough because people are wearing jackets and bigger pants and gloves and, you know, hats, and you lose a lot of the details that might make a moment interesting because everybody's freezing cold. But I still like this one. I think the vibe gets across, and that's what I was looking for. Then, of course, I'm looking for those architecture shots, those classic shots that really tell a story of the location. Union Station, there's a lot of history here. The pillars in the front, the details on the building. There are other things that make that spot really interesting, and whenever I walk by, I'm always trying to find an interesting way to capture it. That said, you're going to see what I mean here with the cool tones versus the warm tones. The sky in this shot just didn't work out, and then of course the ground here is just a completely different color. So here it's a good photo, but in practice I'm really not a fan. And then obviously me waving. I saw the mirror, thought I could do something with an Instagram Reels there, and I'm gonna just nix that idea for now and rethink about it. There's also some cool compositions you could do on your way to Old City Hall up the street, where people, when they walk by, you can line up the clock tower in some interesting ways. I saw this leading line on the ground, which I believe is like a sewer grate or like a water drainage system or something, and I thought, like, if I got low I might be able to get something out of it. But obviously with this guy walking here, and you'll notice a lot of construction off into the distance, I think this photo didn't work out. If it was raining or snowing and there was an umbrella involved, yeah, I'm gonna say that the classic street photography stereotype, this photo probably would have worked out better. But you know, beggars can't be choosers. you only get what you get. And as you can see around me, there's absolutely no people around, which is wild for, I'm gonna call this now 7:30 in the morning in the financial district. I think pre-Christmas or like holiday time, there were so many people in this spot of the city. I was really getting excited for what street photos I was going to be able to make, because winter street photography is hard in general, and when you then remove the people out of it, you're kind of out of luck. This was a cool one with the reflection though. I would need a wider lens to get the composition that I would have wanted, but I think that there's still something here. Maybe it's something for a photo carousel if I figure out a theme for this to go into. And then I'm looking for reflections of light on certain pieces of concrete. This was a composition that was extremely popular before, you know, they decided to just do construction around the whole city, because you could get the Old City Hall clock tower reflecting in the wall with all of the streetlights as well. Get some really cool depth of field and bokeh effects. But with the construction, a lot of that has been covered up and you lose a lot of the ambient lighting. I was trying to get this person walking though on the rule of thirds with some ambient lighting off into the brick wall, and everybody was just a bit too far to the right to get the photo that I actually wanted. But I'll land on that one and say that it's a pass, but it's not an A+ on execution. Every time I come to this part of the city though, I always am reminded about Suits. I see the pillars and the glass, and I'm just always like, oh, I gotta just watch another episode of Suits. even though how old it is, and I've probably seen it way too many times. But yeah, the buildings right here, this is where Suits was shot, and it makes me a little nostalgic coming here. But there is a classic lookup shot in this part of the city that I absolutely love. It's one of my favorite lookup shots because it's probably, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's not overly photographed, because it definitely is, but it's probably a little bit more underrated because compositionally you have to be a bit more unique with your approach in making it interesting, especially when you want to use different lighting effects. But if you line up in the middle of the in the square, and then you kind of turn your camera on an angle, you can get some cool angle photos of the actual lookup. So I'm going to put that up on the screen, and as you can see, it's blue, there's some red, you can get some interesting tones with it. And then this one I actually posted in the Instagram reels. I gave it a little bit of a different feel with the desaturated tones, deeper blacks, some more shadows. Let me know what you think, because I could start editing in this style as well. I'm always really experimenting with colors and figuring out what looks good in the city. So I deleted a whole bunch of footage to have us arrive at this point, because there was not too much interesting going on. But when you're around the Saks building, there's a couple streetcar stops here that actually drop off people. So you might get some movement, you might have some good lighting. I think the lighting in this part of the city is probably the best, just given placement of buildings and how things look. Obviously, the Eaton Center bridge is a classic. This is another photo I put up on the bridge, and you can see as the person's moving, I'm panning my camera as they walk, lining them up on the rule of thirds to make sure compositionally things make sense. And then I always try to get people walking with their legs open in these types of shots. Want to make your subject bigger, not necessarily smaller, because it doesn't lead to a more interesting photo if their legs are together as they're crossing the street. You want to show that they're walking or they're moving, and then having the legs apart is probably the best way to go about doing that. So that's really what I was focusing on there, and why I was taking as many photos as I was. And I'm just hunting for compositions at this point. I saw the taxi over there. Yeah, I'm really looking for taxi shots sometimes when I'm out of ideas. They're that little piece of Toronto that's still iconic, are those like Beck taxis driving around with the orange and the teal. And that's something that I thought maybe could be added to a photo carousel. Similar to what we were talking about earlier, though, I thought I could make a blending photo down Yonge Street, and then I decided, once I saw that person crossing, to change up my composition, run out into the middle, and use a photo with a little bit more dynamism, I'm going to say. Instead of just an empty street, I wanted to make sure I could get somebody in the shot, which is something I always try to do. Here, I'm going to say this is a classic composition, but this guy was not happy to see me. If you see his face, he's looking a little mad. So we'll skip over that one quick. And I'm really just looking at the bus, how people are moving. Are there any interesting compositions I could get? I personally was pretty happy with the shot of the guy walking. That was something that I wanted to get. So I thought, why not try and get another shot of somebody? And then obviously with him being backlit like that, I'm saying backlit because the light's coming from behind him, even though he's pointing towards the light. I thought it could lead to a cool photo, but besides an interesting color grade, I'm going to say that the photo didn't really work out how I would expect. It would be cool if maybe he was looking off to the left, or you had something there that might have created a little bit more of an interesting photo, like a cool building, or if the truck wasn't there and it was an interesting car. Probably what I would have hoped for. And then I'm looking for patterns. So I saw some patterns up on the Saks building. These, but so I thought I could capture those real quick with the repeating windows and the way that the lights turned on. And then that pretty much rounds out today's video. It is a bit of a shorter POV, I'm going to say, obviously challenges included, but it is what it is. You got to make the most of it, right? And that's just really what I tried doing. This last shot was more of an ambient photo, trying to get the taxi and the bus and just what's going on in this shot. So that said, that pretty much rounds out today's video. It was an interesting morning. My personal habit is to go out once a week, film a POV, and make something out of it. Like I said at the beginning of the video, use this as time for yourself. Just go for a walk, enjoy the photos, enjoy making something. Even if you come back with photos that aren't, at the level that you want them to be, I think we just need to be happy at this point that we can make photos and we can keep on being creative, even with everything going on in the world. So with that, I'm curious to see what you all create. Feel free to tag me or send them to me on Instagram, and hopefully I will see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.